How's it going, everyone? We have a bit of a follow-up from yesterday's news about Firewalk Studios shutting down, which I think a lot of people saw coming. I mean, after the disaster that was Concord, Firewalk shutting down wasn't all too big of a surprise. I'm not gonna lie, me and some of my friends that were well-versed in the situation, more entrenched into the gaming world, we were talking about how long Firewalk would be around, and this was well before Concord was even out. That was our outlook towards the game in terms of, we didn't have anything against the game. Actually, one of my buddies that was talking about Firewalk shutting down pre-ordered Concord so he could play the beta a ways ahead. You guys remember when they were doing the pre-order and get early access into the beta? The man actually pre-ordered the game on Steam, thinking he could refund it, but how it works is they sent out the pre-order vouchers for other people, you to invite your friends to play the beta, and you're not allowed to refund that after you send those out. But thankfully for him, Concord was a game that ultimately they refunded everybody anyway. But I digress. We were talking about when Firewalk was going to shut down. It was just something natural as far as if you were looking at the release of the game and the anticipation. But on top of that, another studio has shut down, and we have a bit of an update on what could have been Concord's development deal as far as how much it costed. That $400 million did sound a little outrageous, but we all know it was an incredibly expensive game, so we'll talk that at the end of this video. But first of all, an update from PlayStation Studios. Dear team, today I want to share some important updates from Sony Interactive Entertainment Studio Business Group. We consistently evaluate games portfolio and status of our projects to ensure we are meeting near and long-term business priorities. As part of our ongoing efforts to strengthen SIE's studio business, we have made a difficult decision relating two of our studios, Neon Koi and Firewalk. So both of them are going to be shut down. Neon Koi isn't a studio that is that well known, but they were a PlayStation studio that makes mobile action games with epic stories, as they note. It is formerly known as Savage Game Studios, and it had offices in Helsinki and Berlin. So they are getting shut down alongside Firewalk Studios. But interestingly enough, it's one studio that was making or creating an avenue for Sony to monetize a different part of their business revenue stream in mobile gaming, and Firewalk obviously was tasked to target another avenue of their revenue stream when it comes to live service projects. Them chasing these other avenues of revenue ultimately is leading to both studios shutting down. And do I think this is going to lead to a course correct for Sony? No, not quite yet. I think Sony is willing to take a lot of L's, and if you really get into the live service market and you're trying to break into that market, I'm sorry, that's gotta be an expectation. You gotta be ready to take the L's. At least if I'm looking at the vantage point of the Sonys and the EAs and the Ubisofts of the world, they all are very well versed in this, that they are ready to take those L's. You have to be ready to take an L in Concord, take an L in Last of Us Factions that is never even gonna come out. At least in the case of Last of Us Factions, I actually think it's good that it's never gonna come out if it was deemed to be a nonsense release anyway, because it'll never be a stain to Naughty Dog. Like, nobody cares about Firewalk in the grand scheme of things in terms of Firewalk having this legacy. You don't want to tamper or stain that legacy that Naughty Dog has, even though, I'm not crazy about Naughty Dog these days. They're still perceived as one of the premier studios in all of gaming, and you don't want to stain that. Firewalk, on the other hand, if you invested so much into Concord, you might as well drop it, and who knows, maybe it'll be the random pop-off that nobody saw coming. But I think there's a lot of people being like, oh my god, now Sony's gonna abandon ship on live service. Guys, I think we all want that to be the case. Will that be the case? I don't think so. Again, if you look at every publisher that has really delved into the live service space, they gotta be ready to take L's, and I think Sony very much knew that going into it. I don't think Sony in their right mind expected fair game, Concord, Helldivers 2, Last of Us Factions, Horizon's upcoming live service title, all of those to be slam dunk successes. Nobody is expecting that. The Concord of the world, yeah, they're gonna flop. And in the live service world, when a game flops, oh baby, a game flops. Like, it is not a case of you know, the game is an okay level of success. No, if a live service game flops, that means the player base is gonna dwindle. That means it has no staying power, and that is the ultimate issue when you're chasing a bag like this. If a game doesn't have staying power, GG, no re, boys. It's over for that game. It's not, we can turn this around, at least in a lot of cases. I know Final Fantasy XIV did it. I know there have been a couple of other games that have done it, but with Concord, it was set in stone. With Last of Us, it didn't even get out the door. Fair game, I am very, very skeptical to see how that game turns out. Helldivers 2 is interesting because it was a game that did dwindle in its player base, but it still has a consistent player base, but at the same time, that game was $40 buy to play, same as Concord, but a lot of live service projects, they aren't deemed to be buy to play titles, and we'll see how that resonates with the large or the vast majority of Sony titles. Is Fair Game going to be buy to play? Is Marathon going to be buy to play? I imagine the case with Marathon is yes, but overall, are they gonna go the $40 route? I don't know. And also, there is this tweet and this report. According to two sources familiar with the agreement, Concord's development deal at Firewalk Studios was $200 million. That did not include marketing, the sale of IP rights, the acquisition of the studio, or the game's delayed launch. I can see how that $400 million number comes together when you exclude all of this. Maybe $400 million is a little egregious, but $300 million? I mean, if you talk about the acquisition of the studio and marketing, those are expensive elements of Concord's deal, and that is a lot of money, you guys. That is a lot of money, and it is incredibly depressing. Even if it's $100 million, there's so many reports about what this budget was that I hope that at some point we'll get clarity, and I think at some point we will. Somebody's got to do some inside reporting and get a more legitimate number out there, but even if it was $100 million, that is so much money that you just think about the games that are never or haven't seen the light of day in terms of returning IPs, a Killzone, a Gravity Rush. I guess Killzone would be an expensive game to develop, but man, there are so many IPs that are just dormant, so Concord had all of these resources allocated towards it, which is so depressing. I get why they're doing it. Again, I mentioned it in my earlier video when we talked about Firewalk shutting down, but the perspective of Concord, what they wanted out of it, is much greater than what a Gravity Rush 3 could be. Gravity Rush 3 is a drop in the bucket compared to what they ultimately want. Concord didn't pan out, but what they ultimately want out of these games is to be a game that generates them revenue for years and years, and we had heard about stuff like it becoming a Star Wars level IP, and when you look at the characters and the idea of a hero shooter and the fact that it's a part of Amazon Prime's secret level show, you really do see the groundwork being laid for what they had perceived to be an IP that was going to resonate at a high level. I would argue that that is more of a testament to how out of touch Sony is and how out of touch a lot of these publishers are with their own audience, but I think it's a case of Sony not really caring about their own audience that much and chasing after what they view to be a greater audience. Can we get it beyond our core gaming populace that we already have? They're already entrenched into our ecosystem and we have no competition, so it doesn't matter if we take a couple L's. Ultimately, we'll give them a few bones. We'll give them a Ghost of Yotai next year, that one major first-party title, or hopefully we get more, and we'll chase that live service bag. Maybe Fair Game will do it for us. Maybe the Horizon live service title. Maybe Concord 2 will do it for us. That's a joke, but you get the idea. But that's gonna do it for me. Again, a bit of an update as far as 2 studios shutting down. Again, even if I disagree with the outlook on Concord and the release of it, the promotion of it, that burger trailer scars me to this day. Ultimately, jobs getting affected is always an unfortunate thing. I know some people are putting out comments like, oh, they deserved it. Yeah, but these are lives that are being altered, and nobody deserves, you know, losing their job. And, you know, even if I do crap on Concord, from a promotional standpoint, mechanically, there were some good elements of that game. I know I'm going to be taken out to slaughter for that one, but you guys get the idea. But that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.